This is Aging by the Bay, here to provide families in the San Francisco Bay Area pertinent information about healthy aging practices and services. Your host is Ajay Sani of ComForCare Home Care.
Good morning and welcome everyone to Aging by the Bay, where we provide families in the San Francisco Bay Area relevant information about healthy aging practices and services. I'm your host Ajay Sani from ComForCare Home Care. With ComForCare, you can give your loved ones the best life possible, thanks to complete in-home care for every stage of life. Find out more at ComForCare.com or call us at 1-800-886-4044. At Aging by the Bay, we talk about joys and some of the challenges of growing older in the Bay Area. We talk to experts and what they see happening as people age, as well as the services that are available that you or your loved ones may not be aware of. So today I am very excited to introduce a guest, and he has 35 years of combined experience in both the real estate and senior living industries. So Jeff Katz has successfully helped hundreds of seniors transition from the long-time home to new beginnings and has helpful information he would like to share today about the process of moving from your home to your new residence. So welcome, Jeff. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, AJ. Thanks for having me.
So pretty much let's start with the basic question I have in mind. You mentioned you are a seniors real estate specialist. So what exactly do you do that is different from a typical real estate agent who basically helps with selling and buying homes for people?
Right. So AJ, what I do that I think is different for most people that talk to a real estate agent, most seniors, they're thinking of moving to typically a senior community. And those discussions tend to be very one-dimensional. For example, they're more focused on selling the house, getting from point A to point B. And of course, that's an important part of the discussion. Of course, I do have that discussion with my senior clients and their families and how we're going to get to that point. But I think more importantly, when I meet with seniors and their families, I'm looking at it from the point of view of the seniors. In most cases, you have people that have been in their homes 40, 50, sometimes even 60 years.
Right.
And many of those folks don't want to move from their long-time home. I mean, they've been there a long time. They just don't want to move. And so they're scared and they don't know what's going to happen next. And so I'm able to combine my experience in both real estate and the 6 years experience working in a senior living community. And I've helped hundreds of seniors successfully transition from their longtime homes into a new senior community. I talk about what it's like to live in a typical senior community, what different senior communities are like, because every community has its own personality. Talk about what an average day is like in a typical senior community. I'll even discuss questions to ask when touring senior communities, talking about pricing, because senior living is not inexpensive. So we talk about pricing, and there are also below market rent options for seniors.
Right.
So we have that discussion as well. So it's not just the one-dimensional discussion about selling the home, which is also part of the discussion, but it's more three-dimensional in terms of what it will be like, how it will be okay, what other seniors have done in your situation. And I think from my experience, that is as important, if not more important to the seniors and their families, having that reassurance that everything is going to be okay.
Wonderful. This is really good because, you're able to help people who are making the not so easy decision of moving out of their homes where they have been living for years. So maybe you can highlight and explain. You already touched base just now, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on, the tasks that you do that are quite different from a transaction type of, activity.
Right. Well, for example, if a senior asks me to tour with them, to go and visit senior communities with them, I'm more than happy to do that. Of course, right now, you typically can't visit senior communities, but I can still advise my seniors on which questions to ask And I think that's really important. Also, for a lot of seniors, what holds them back is the thought of downsizing 40, 50, 60 years worth of stuff into a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. And I happen to have a wonderful, wonderful team in place. I have a senior move manager who specializes, Cassie Erickson. She specializes in helping seniors downsize to get from point A to point B. I have a wonderful moving company that specializes in seniors on the move. We also have the discussion of staying in the home. Home health is an option. You offer that. And we also talk about the options of keeping the house and renting it out. So try not to leave any stone unturned, but I have a wonderful team in place, and I direct that team, if you will, to help the senior, once they made the decision to move, to get from point A to point B, making that happen, getting the house ready to sell, getting moved, getting settled, getting the home staged if necessary, so that the client, and their family, has input into the entire process. But I do the hard work because so they could get focused on getting settled in their new community.
Got it. So what I'm hearing is that it's just not like, your focus is just not like we need to sell the home and then just focus on selling the home and then leave the family or the couple on their own, like whatever needs to be done as part of the move. You make things easy because you understand what it takes. And I guess some of it has to do with like your background because you've worked in a senior community yourself. So you understand the, anxiety, fear, uncertainty of people who are moving.
Right. Having that, sensitivity and experience. And that's not to say others don't.
Right.
But that experience is really helpful when you're looking to make this major move. And so, yes, I've always enjoyed working with the older adult population. And so, it's just something I really, really enjoy doing. And also keep in mind, many seniors rely on their adult children to do a lot of the grunt work, if you will. That means touring senior communities, arranging the nuts and bolts of the move. But many adult children don't live in the area.
Yeah. True.
And, they have their own families. They have their own situations. And so, again, my focus is to take the burden off the families, minimize the stress, make the move as easy as possible for everybody involved. And once the move takes place, continue to be a resource for that client.
Excellent. So this is what, like you are saying, how you'd help them overall in the total journey of moving from their home to a community. And so would you like to highlight or explain some of your strengths in this area as such?
Well, I think having the understanding, the fundamental understanding that for a lot of people, they don't want to move. And going back from there and just trying to, again, work with people and answer their questions and relieve their fears because they're afraid of moving from their home. They're going to lose their independence. And also I want to mention that not everybody moves to a senior community. And I do have clients that will consider downsizing maybe from a 2-story to a 1-story, or maybe look to move to a lower maintenance home or condo or possibly a 55 and over community. So, you do have that group of people as well that are looking not to move necessarily to a senior community, but also downsize to an easier lifestyle. So I do work with those folks, but the people that are moving to senior communities, I think, just need more reassurance than your average seller that's, selling their home, because it will be okay. People successfully transition. From my experience, not only do you not lose your independence is actually enhanced.
Right.
Because for a lot of folks that are struggling in their home and their homes, they're not being able to successfully maintain it at a certain point of life, or I've seen people that are in 2-story homes that are stuck upstairs in the bedroom because they can't get down the stairs.
Yeah.
That's a difficult way to live, or if you have to give up driving, transportation becomes more of a challenge. So there are definitely some advantages to staying in the home, but for some people, it's not always, feasible or practical.
Yeah. And you're totally right that it's all about like unique situation, what a particular family is looking for, where they are in overall in terms of health, where they are in terms of, safety point of view overall, because as you mentioned, like if it's a 2-story house, then coming up and down with like, if the mobility is not that there, it makes it all the more difficult and, prone to falling and all that. So at times moving to a smaller house can be less maintenance and still they have the independence. But at the same time, it's like a 1-story or, also another point that you mentioned, like a 55 plus sort of community, because then they have people with like similar interests and they can do all the activities they want to with like-minded people.
Right. And that is a discussion that I have with potential clients. I talk about everything, not just purely selling the house. So I think having that holistic discussion with seniors and their families, knowing that, they're getting maybe more information than they thought they were going to get.
Yeah.
But I don't think at this stage you could get too much information. I don't think there's enough good information out there. Or information is hard to find. So, I like to think I'm a good neutral resource for people.
Basically, looking after the interest of the potential sort of your client who is engaging with you, you're looking at like what's good for the client.
Correct. Always.
Excellent. Yeah. That's a great way of helping out our fellow citizens. So moving on, since March, we are seeing a new world, unfortunately because of this pandemic. So what are some of the changes in the near or long term you foresee because of COVID-19?
Wow. Well, if we're talking about real estate, I think the first change that's most noticeable to the average consumer is open houses have totally disappeared.
Right.
So that's not happening, and it won't happen anytime soon. Although saying that, houses are still selling quite frequently, and the market is strong. The number of homes on the market is significantly less than last year. I've seen homes sell with 5, 10, sometimes 15 offers, just like the good old days. So the real estate market is strong if one is looking to sell their home at this point. Other changes, technically, it's harder to show a home. You have to disinfect the home.
Right.
And that's part of the process that I do when I'm representing a seller. The home has to be disinfected before the showing and after the showing. So showings are much more controlled. Buyers have to sign a special form a release form before they could actually go into the house, as well as the agents. You could only have no more than 3 people in the house at any one time. So it's much more complicated. As far as senior living is concerned, the friends I talk to now that are in senior living,
right?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging time for those folks in some respects because you can't do tours. The only tours are virtual tours. People can't physically go inside and look at the apartments. The residents in many cases are, perhaps sheltering in place or maybe not able to leave their apartments, depending on the community.
Mm-hmm.
So one question that I would recommend people ask if they're going to tour senior communities is, what is your shelter in place policy?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to ask if there have been any COVID-19 cases in particular communities.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally reasonable questions. So these are very different questions than, 6 months ago. So, the world has definitely changed in a lot of respects, but people are still aging.
Yeah.
The assistance will still be needed.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in the home or whether it's in a community.
Yeah.
There'll always be, I think, a demand for senior care.
Yeah. And one of the things that I am seeing, people come from different mindset. For example, there are people who are really worried, who are just kind of, and there's nothing right or wrong. Every approach is fine. It's an individual comfort level. But there are some people who just don't want to step out of their home. They just want to be indoors and just say that, okay, how I can, go through this phase. On the other hand, there are some people whom you may call, they feel, it's okay. Whatever will come, will come. I'm just, I cannot stop my style, whatever it is. And then I'm going out and all those kind of things. And then there are some people in between. So in a group setting or even moving to a community or even what you mentioned, open houses and all, it's important to take care of the safety considerations and also the mindset of different people, how to make sure we all are sort of able to do what we want to in a controlled manner.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to wear booties, a mask,
Mm-hmm.
wash your hands before you enter and when you exit the home.
Right.
If you're looking at homes. So, yes, it's a very changed world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But the good part is that we need the right resources, the right people to make things easier for our seniors. So on that note, what advice do you have for our listeners, especially seniors out here in the Bay Area who may be considering selling their homes?
I think the biggest piece of advice, AJ, I would recommend to folks is to plan ahead.
Uh-huh.
Because from my experience, I used to see a lot of folks just move quickly into senior living. Usually it was a fall or a urinary tract infection or pneumonia. That's the big three. Some health-driven event would force the move. And my recommendation for seniors and their families would be know what senior living options are out there before the need ever arises. Before you, even if you're not thinking about moving, know what's out there in your area, know what the costs are. Just like you would go to a financial planner and plan your finances, you should also know what your healthcare options are, before the need arises. And that's another discussion that, I could have with folks, a consultation if people call. It's part of the background that I have. And so that would be my number one piece of advice. Don't wait until the need arises to make the plan. Know how much equity is in your house. Know how you're going to pay for senior care if you needed to do that. Don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah, planning is extremely important because it shouldn't be event driven, because then you pick the very first thing available.
Right.
So it's much better to plan and then even try out things like what will work in short term, long term. And if they try out whether it's, a type of community, and then there are some differences. So what suits them and where they can age, if they want to age in place, those kind of things. And sooner they start, better it is. Otherwise, in panic mode, it becomes very difficult because then you just look for whatever is available.
Right. And you never want to be making life-changing decisions in a panic mode.
Yeah. Because as such, it's very overwhelming at that point of time when something has happened. And if you're struggling with that particular event, whether it's, fall, injury, or just some sickness, then the mind and the whole family is focused on that part. And then if a big move takes place along that, then it can be really overwhelming.
And that happens.
Yeah. So planning, we can never overplan, basically.
No, don't feel afraid to ask questions, even if you don't feel like you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have the knowledge is peace of mind. And I think peace of mind is really important.
Very good. This is all very useful information. So now my final question, any final thoughts or any final message, or you want to summarize whatever you said?
Well, my website is called jeffkatzhomes.com, and there's a lot of really good resources on that website.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I am available to meet with or Zoom or FaceTime, talk to seniors, their families. Safety is always paramount in this day and age. So I could be reached at 707-845-2541.
Very good, Jeff. Thanks a lot for sharing your knowledge.
Well, thank you, AJ. I appreciate it.
So, listeners, thank you for joining us on Aging by the Bay today. This show was brought to you by ComForCare. We hope that you enjoyed the show, and please subscribe to our podcast that is available at iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. You can find this show and also previous shows at our website, agingbythebay.com. We love your feedback, and so please leave your comments. If you have any question for our featured guests or want to become a featured guest, please contact us by sending us an email at info@agingbythebay.com. We will be back next Saturday, same time. Until then, take care and have a nice week.
This has been Aging by the Bay with Ajay Sani, addressing issues on aging and services for the elderly community. Join us again next week for Aging by the Bay.